What if I told you that a single piece of paper, just one simple bank letter, was the key to one of the biggest banking frauds in India's history? This isn't just a story about a jeweler. Oh no. This is the story of how a tiny crack in the banking system managed to shake an entire nation. So let's break down exactly how it all happened.
It really all comes down to this one question, doesn't it? How on earth could a routine piece of paper, a standard document used in banking every single day, become the weapon for a fraud of this insane magnitude? Let's just take a moment to absorb that number. 14,000 crore rupees. I mean, to put that into perspective, that's more than the entire annual budget of some smaller countries. That was the scale of this heist, and it was all built on a foundation of completely shattered trust.
To really understand how this happened, we've got to start with the institution at the very center of it all, the one whose trust was so spectacularly broken, Punjab National Bank. So the stage for this whole drama is Punjab National Bank, or as we all know it, PNB. Now, this isn't some small fly-by-night operation. PNB is one of India's oldest, most respected public sector banks. For millions and millions of people, it was a symbol of safety, of reliability. And that's exactly why what happened next sent such a massive shockwave across the country.
So, how was it even possible? Well, the entire fraud was unlocked with a single, incredibly powerful financial tool: a secret guarantee. The key to the whole thing was something called a letter of undertaking, or an LOU. Now, in simple terms, it's basically a promise. PNB would tell another bank, hey, go ahead and give our customer a loan for their imports. If they don't pay you back, don't worry, we promise we'll cover it. It's a totally normal tool that helps keep global trade moving smoothly. But to really get how they twisted this, let me give you a simple analogy. Imagine you need a huge loan, but there's no way the bank's going to give it to you. So you secretly use your best friend's name, someone everyone trusts, as the guarantor, but you never actually tell them. You get the money and you vanish. Who does the lender come after for the cash? Your friend, of course. In this giant scam, PNB was that unsuspecting friend. And this brings us to the actual mechanics of the deception itself. A scheme that ran silently, right under everyone's noses for years. So, the most crucial part to understand is this was an inside job. The main guys who benefited were the billionaire jewelers Nirav Modi and his uncle Mehul Choksi. What they did was, they had a handful of corrupt officials at just one PNB branch in Mumbai who would issue these powerful LOUs for them. But here's the absolute genius of the scam. These guarantees were never, ever recorded in the bank's main core banking system. That's the central digital brain where every single official transaction is supposed to live. By keeping it off that system, these guarantees were basically invisible to the rest of the bank and to any regulators. As far as the official records were concerned, they simply didn't exist. And they managed to keep this going for almost 7 years. Incredible. And this just lays out the whole fraudulent cycle perfectly. Okay, step 1. The insiders at PNB issue a secret LOU that's completely off the books. Step 2. Armed with this rock-solid guarantee from a major Indian national bank, Modi and Choksi's companies go to foreign branches of other Indian banks and get massive loans. Easy. And then step 3. That money was used to fund their businesses, sure, but also to pay off older fraudulent loans and, to fuel their lavish lifestyles. It was a perfect, self-sustaining cycle of deception. But, as we all know, a fraud this big can't stay hidden forever. Eventually, the system was shaken right to its very core. So how did this multi-billion-dollar house of cards finally come crashing down? It wasn't some sophisticated audit or a brave whistleblower. It was actually just bureaucracy working the way it's supposed to. In 2018, when one of these LOUs came up for renewal, a new set of officials were in charge. They just followed the procedure. They looked for the original transaction in the main banking system and found absolutely nothing. Their simple, routine questions about a guarantee that didn't officially exist were what unraveled the entire thing. And once the secret was out, the fallout was swift and it was severe. The scam gets reported in January 2018. By February, India's top investigative agencies, the CBI and the ED, are all over it, launching massive probes. Authorities started seizing everything they could find: luxury cars, mansions, you name it. And the Reserve Bank of India moved super quickly to tighten banking rules, actually banning the use of LOUs altogether to make sure this could never, ever happen again. But the impact of this went so much further than just PNB.
First, it just shattered public trust in the whole public sector banking system. Second, think about it. When a public bank loses 14,000 crore rupees, who ends up paying for that? We do, the Indian taxpayers. And third, it was a brutal wake-up call that triggered urgent, sweeping reforms in how banks are regulated and monitored. So after all that chaos, what are the real lessons from this incredible heist? And maybe the most important question of all, could something like this happen again? 3 huge lessons really came out of this whole mess. First, because the loans were kept off the books, the system now demands that every single transaction must be logged in the core banking system. No exceptions, period. Second, since this was an inside job, it just hammered home how critical individual accountability is. This wasn't just a system failing, it was people failing. And third, it proved that strong, vigilant regulatory oversight isn't just a nice to have, it is the absolute last line of defense. The PNB scam really forced the Indian banking system to look in the mirror and confront some pretty ugly vulnerabilities. The specific loopholes that Nirav Modi exploited have been sealed shut, and yeah, the system is definitely stronger now. But it does leave us with this one lingering question. Is any system ever truly unbreakable? Or is the next great heist just a new, undiscovered flaw waiting to be found?